Alright, everybody, hello. I'm going to make a video in response to a man by the name of David Mansaray, and he made two videos, and I will respond to both of them. And this video is going to be a little complex, and I took notes on both of these videos, and I'm gonna just respond to the best I can. I found both of the videos very interesting. He talked about uh, how kind of learning a language can be, or being in a country can be overrated, and I agree with that to some extent. Well, actually, what he said, I agree with it pretty much to 100%. And he also talks about in a different video about the learning curve. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the first thing I'm going to talk about is learning a language before you go to the country in a positive way, and then I'm going to talk about it in a negative way, and about being in the country. I'm also going to talk about not having any experience learning the language in a positive way, and not learning a language before being in the country in a negative way. So I hope everybody can follow me. I mean, it'll be pretty easy to follow. I already have my notes and stuff, so yeah. So the first thing I wanted to point out that he talked about humility, and this is great. Um, I actually had a great experience studying abroad, which is why I made a video about studying abroad. I had a very good experience with the language. My language skills improved greatly in the course of the year. And actually I was in Germany 3 times. So the first time I experienced the most humility, and I knew that when I got there my German was not good at all. Like I would go somewhere and I would say, what's what's this right here, or what's this, or how do you say I have to go to the bathroom, or something like that. And so I kind of filled in these gaps when I was there, and I could have filled in these gaps when I was at home, uh, being curious about such things. And I wasn't curious about how to say, different things and how to say this or that until my experience in Germany. So but you can definitely do that when you're at home, how to say such and such. But you definitely get the motivation when you can definitely get motivation when you're in the country. Many people do, some people don't. I'll talk about that later. He also talked about the bubble of immersion. So you're totally immer, immersed in a country, immersed in the language when you're in the country uh, that's self-explanatory. And it's usually self-explanatory. I'll talk about this as well, but if you want it to be, then it can be very it can be a good process of immersion. And you learn just different things. You have to learn how to describe things. If people want to meine Schwester ist total laut, meine Fresse. People want to ask you questions about different things, so you have to learn how to describe what something is or how something is, and maybe you haven't done that before. So maybe when you're back in your own country, you learn how to have this inquisitiveness, or you learn how to be inquisitive about different things that maybe you didn't touch on in that country when you were in that country. So it helps you in that way. And many people think that you go to the country and that's the height of your language learning, and that sometimes it could the language can just deteriorate when you're back in the country. But it's not true. It doesn't have to be true at all. It can be magnified, because I when I was in when I was in Germany, it was very limited. And it was very limited the first time, and I came back and I knew what I had to do. I had to hit the books and study this, many different things. And when I went back the second time, it was a lot better. And then I came back, and then 6 months later, I lived in Germany for a year. So I just prepared myself. You can prepare yourself when you're at home without the language getting worse. So that I guess that's kind of a myth that the language gets worse. It also depends on how good your skills are at the time. If you only know one word, then of course it can't really get worse at all if you're at home. So um, yeah. So in terms of the learning curve, there's many things you can do with this. I mean, you have to people. because he said that you talk about things that people mostly talk about things that they're comfortable with. So I mean, you have to have fun with the language. You have to have passion, and the more fun you have, you don't really think about improving. It just happens, and you have fun with the language. Oh, what does this mean? Or what does this mean? You catch yourself sometimes talking in your own language, say English, and you're talking to somebody, or and they give you maybe an idiom, and then you think to yourself, you don't have to question that person or anything or say it out loud, but you question yourself, oh, this person just said an idiom, what does that mean in French or Spanish or German or any, like, whatever language you're learning. So you have to have, I mean, that's a really fun way to go about that. And the more you know, I guess, the more passionate you become about the language, because the more deep you are in the language. And it just sparks your curiosity, and curiosity about different things, and then your knowledge gets deeper and deeper. And this comfort zone, you're just getting more and more comfortable, like, with the language, and it's just great. So then the language curve, it just, I mean, of course it's gonna, taper off, but it's gonna keep going. You can't limit your, one's not supposed to limit himself or herself to simple things. Just keep going. Well, it depends on the goals as well, but yeah, just keep going, and let that curiosity, let that passion, and have fun with the language. And yeah, so another positive thing I want to talk about is not learning a language before going into the country. um, I've never had experience with this, but I will learn Korean. I've started learning a little bit of Korean, because I'm actually going to Korea. I found out that my flight is next Friday at 8 o'clock, so I have to get ready. I have my suitcase behind me, and I really can't wait to get out of here. It's been a long 14 months, and I guess one day. That's the anniversary today. Yes, I'm counting the days. So, um, but a positive experience when you don't learn a language before. I mean, I don't really have any Korean skills, so I'm just gonna say that I don't have any knowledge of the language. Um, but you have to be motivated, and it can be a positive experience, because the motivation's there. I'm gonna learn the language for mostly respect for the Koreans, because I'm sure that there are a lot of Koreans there who don't speak any English, or yeah, English. And yeah, just reverence, because I'm there. I might as well show some solidarity to the language and the culture, and it's a win-win. Everybody wins. Like, I would get more friends who may or may not speak English. I like it when I learn a language and a person doesn't speak English. Makes me feel, oh yeah, this really is, it was good. It was totally worth it to learn this language and keep learning this language, so that I can have more in-depth conversations with this individual, or with these individuals. So yeah. So now I'm going to talk about um, how it's kind of overrated when you're in a country. There's these. I talked about kind of the positives, like people who learn a language before and then they improve, they use it for their improvement, and then people who didn't learn a language. Well, I mean, you can learn a language while you're in the country, and I mean, I'll be in Korea for 2 years, so I'm pretty. I hope to God that I make a lot of improvements. I'm pretty sure I will. Um, so now I'm going to talk about the downsides of it. It's not always positive, but anyway, there's the people who may. I mean, I guess I'll talk about these people really quick. There are the people who go to the country and they don't intend to learn the language anyway. So yeah, that's a given. They're not going to improve. And what else? There's people who want to learn the language, or there are people who haven't learned a language and then decide, okay, maybe I'll live here and I'll learn the language and see what happens. And they're motivated before, and then they're there, and they feel really, really, really overwhelmed, and they decide to just not deal with it, because especially this gets a lot of English speakers. I have to admit this. And I'll emphasize this again later. It's over. Well, okay. A lot of people speak English. It's the most learned language in the world, I think, and people can get by almost anywhere just speaking English. So, I mean, eventually, people who wanted to learn a language and went to this country to learn a language to just take the easy way out and speak English the whole time. A lot of English teachers do this. I heard in Korea, so I hope that I don't fall into this, but I hope not. No, it's not going to happen because I love languages too much. But the most interesting thing is people who learn a language before, and people never thought about this, but I think it's possible. Well, I know it's possible. I've seen it happen that people go to the country, they've learned the language. I've seen people who learn German for because there were 75 Americans when I was in Germany, and I saw some of them who had German for 7 years, and at the end of the year, they spoke pretty, they spoke German pretty well before going to Germany, but the whole year in Germany was actually detrimental to their abilities, and right now I just want to advise, if anybody, please don't fall into this when you're abroad or if you're ever abroad. So, um, okay, the first trap is that there are other native speakers of your language in the country, and actually, okay. So when I was in Germany, there were groups of Americans, and they would just hang out with each other. They all learned German. They had various levels, but it almost doesn't make sense to speak in German when everyone speaks English, and I didn't really care. I tried speaking German to my American friends, but they just didn't. And then their German, it just slipped. And then by the end of the year, it was not terrible, but it was obviously a lot worse. So I guess that in itself was pretty terrible. Um, so I will definitely avoid. I guess I'll have some American friends when I'm in Korea, but um, definitely just try to make as many friends in in that country as possible so that they can help you. Um, However, I wanted to say so native speakers of your language, and then I want to say native speakers of the target language. So David said in this video that he was in Spain. So I have to wind this down. Okay, so what if these people, like in Germany, this was a problem for some people. Uh, a lot of people in Germany like to speak English and are really excited when they meet an American. Oh, you are American. Let's speak English, and they won't let you speak in German. And too many people, I've seen people just, okay, I guess we can speak in English for once, and then they just end up not speaking German, and their German just just slides down, and it's very sad. I actually introduced my friend Sarah to this German guy, and they never spoke English or they never spoke in German, and that's how her German just slipped. And yeah, so anyway, I think the thing you have to do is you have to make the most use of your time in the country and use the language, and you should use it as much as you can before, and then make sure that you use it when you're in the country, and don't be distracted by native speakers. Although it will be tempting, it's inevitable to fall back on English or fall back on your native language if there's other people there who speak your native language. And yeah, don't let other people try to speak with you in a different language. If you're trying to speak their language, they should show respect for you, um, because you're showing respect for their language. And what else? I think that's it. I think I covered everything. I'm not sure, but if anybody has any questions, then just let me know. I'd like comments or maybe a video response if you want. So, yeah, see you.